Hello! Hello! Welcome to my kitchen once again for a really nice recipe. I didn't put it above today, but it means that there's more space for my head. So, anyway, you guys know what we're making. We are making aubergine tagine. I have a real love for any food that is Middle Eastern or Middle Eastern inspired. I think in the UK, like, it's just something that we're starting to discover, but we have a long way to go because Middle Eastern cuisine is massive, you know, absolutely massive. There's so much variety in it. And so many lovely ingredients we can use. So, hello to George and Colleen and Justine and Paul. Thank you so much to everybody for joining us once again for this live recipe. Do let me know if you're cooking along at home. Justine says I'm looking smart today. I am, because I'm doing some filming for your course. Okay, so you know, gotta look the part. There's no kind of like, you know, exercise clothes going on or pajamas or anything like that today. No, not for the Pro Chef course. So I can't get away with that type of stuff with the Pro Chef course. So Denise, thank you for joining us. Annie and says I've got all the ingredients ready for Ferrero Rocher muffins. I was really worried about this happening because, of course, you know, we're trying to share all of the ingredients well in advance, but then it can get confusing for people as to like which ingredients are needed for which day. So if there is a way that I can make that a bit clearer, then please do let me know. Annie, you're gonna have to put those to one side and wait for 24 hours. So you're 24 hours ahead of us. So yeah, I know that all of these things, like as ever with us, you know, we're getting better at them all the time, and it's a work in progress. Basically, that's what I'm trying to say. So if there is a way that we can make it clearer which ingredients you need on which day, then please do let me know. So Khan, good that you are cooking along. Joss, hello. Oh, you guys are cooking along as well. Pascal, Lisa. And okay, so yes, so on to today's recipe. As I said, it is an aubergine tagine. Lots of ingredients here today. Lots of spices going into it as well, which will just make it a much more kind of, not only like a flavoursome dish, but lots of different levels going on. So I think that is one of the things that for me makes a dish tastier, is just having lots of different types of tastes go on. So, you know, things that are more kind of like musky flavoured, things that are maybe a little bit sweet, a little bit sour, all of those different 5 tastes that Annie and Justine have been learning about. Okay, you know, we can have all of those in one dish. And I love dishes like this as well that are wet and warm and great for not a very sunny, summery day. So, I mean, that's one thing that I don't have to worry about when I'm making stews and soups and stuff like that with you guys, is that I'm pretty much likely to have the weather to go with it. So, not complaining at all. Okay, so George says dessert first life is the best life. Yes, absolutely. I would agree. Because actually, there is like a scientific reason why it might be good to have dessert first. And that's because quite often, like, the things that we do have in dessert can be processed by our body quicker. And so if any of you guys are into anything like that, there is actually like a really good reason why we could have dessert first. Denise is having trouble getting hazelnuts. Oh, that's pants. That's really pants. That was such a Britishism. Pants. Yes, that is annoying. So with tomorrow's recipe, we are making Ferrero Rocher muffins. And you do need the hazelnuts, because the hazelnut and the cacao, that mix is key to making the muffins a success. But Denise, you could just watch it for now, and then hopefully later on you'll be able to get some hazelnuts and you'll be able to use them. I mean, I must say that in the UK, I'm trying to use things like hazelnuts and walnuts more, because they can grow in the UK. The ones that we get in supermarkets aren't necessarily grown in the UK, but I'm hoping that as time goes on, we will have more access to things like British nuts, which would be amazing. Okay, so Justine says she doesn't let me in the kitchen when she's cooking. You guys, Joss and Justine should definitely do a cook along. They should host a cook along. I think it would be brilliant and hilarious and just, yeah, I'd really, really like that. So ladies, if you can let me know if you're up for that. Annie says it's my own fault. I usually write the day down with the recipe, but I forgot. And Katie said something about the Ferrero Rocher muffins yesterday. So I put 2 and 2 together and came up with today. That's okay. I think everyone was just getting so excited about the Ferrero Rocher muffins. So everyone, stop confusing Annie, okay? Please. Joss said has cheesecake for breakfast. Cheesecake or any dessert is very, very similar to a lot of breakfast, so that's absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. Justine says shush, wasn't Chef Dave's recipe. That's okay. That's okay. I don't mind. As long as if it's a good recipe, and you liked it, you enjoyed making it, and it came out as you wanted it to, then it would be great if you could share the information in the community hub, because it doesn't have to just be about our recipes in there. I'm not that territorial. So if it's a good recipe, then come and share all the information. Okay, so still reading your comments, which is great. You're really, really chatty. We will cook at some point today, though. Connie said I'm going to try again tonight to get them. Okay, so I actually think that maybe we should come up with a substitution for people like Denise and Colleen who can't get hazelnuts. So I think that the next best thing would be almonds. So, and I think if you guys are in the States, then they can be easier to get anyway. So we need a nut that is going to have like a good flavour to it, an interesting flavour to it once it's roasted and once it's combined with the cocoa or the cacao. So something like cashew wouldn't really do it. Doesn't have much of a flavour. If you guys have any suggestions, by the way, let me know. But off the top of my head, I think almond is probably the one to go with. Not as good as the hazelnut cacao mix, because hazelnut and cacao or cocoa, when they're together, it's like heaven. Like the flavour pairing is so amazing, and we'll go into that a bit more tomorrow. But I think the next best thing might be almonds. So ladies, you can try that. Okay, Colleen says she has almonds. Okay. Good. And Khan agrees with me. Thank you, Khan. That Joss and Jussie should host a live cook along. Okay, so that's happening. You guys haven't said yes to it yet, but it's happening. So, okay, right, let's get on to the recipe today. Okay, let's get to the overhead shot. And so of course we have our nice array of ingredients here. The first thing that we'll have to do is we will have to toast our coriander seeds and our cumin seeds that we've got over here. So you guys, if you don't have pestle and mortar, then you could just use ground cumin and ground coriander. But I think that this is a really, really good recipe so that you guys can see what the difference is. Because when we use the coriander seeds and the cumin seeds and we toast them and we grind them ourselves, then we have much more of a much more of a flavour. Basically, it's just the impact is much greater when we do it that way rather than using the pre-ground type. So let's start with that. So I've got my pan on here. See if I can bring it over so you can just about see it today, because we have so many ingredients here. And Justine says it could be funny. I have no doubt that it will be funny because you guys are very, very funny. And Colleen said, under the rainbow, is it a kangaroo reading a book? It's not a kangaroo. It isn't a kangaroo, but they are reading a book. And some of you may know what the book is, and some of you may be able to guess who this little gorgeous beauty is as well. So I'm just going to pop our pan on a low to medium heat. Well, actually more like a medium heat. a medium heat. And then we'll get our coriander seeds. So 1 teaspoon of coriander seeds in our pan. And 1 teaspoon of cumin seeds in our pan. There we go. And just make sure that they are not all stacked. We want them against the bottom of the pan as much as possible. Okay, so whilst we wait for those to toast, we just want them to become fragrant. We want them to darken a bit. If they don't darken, then they can be very, very hard to grind in our pestle and mortar. Okay, Justine says, I want to say dog and your book. Yes, it's definitely our cookbook. And, oh, sorry, Denise asked, which is preferable for the recipe, raw or roasted hazelnuts? So we're going to be roasting them anyway, so it depends. Let me just come over here. There we go. It depends. So if you don't want to do the stage of roasting them, then get the roasted ones already. That's absolutely fine to use those. And anybody else who's cooking along tomorrow, you know, if you're going to go and get the hazelnuts, you know, you can just get the roasted, like toasted, chopped ones. That's absolutely fine. And then it just takes out the stage. In the UK, I think the only place that I've seen those is Sainsbury's. So yeah, Denise, it's up to you. It's up to you. It might make life a bit easier if you use the roasted ones. And Justine says, it's very sweet that you say, I want to say dog. It's like you're saying, I want to say it's a dog, but it doesn't look anything like a dog. So, and she's right that it is our cookbook. Oh, George says, if you were close to Costco, they often stock hazelnuts. Oh, that's great. That's great. And what is under the mighty rainbow today? Khan says, Colin says, is it a goat? I really do have to perfect my illustration skills. Justine! You have guessed that it's Bo. Yes, it is Bo. But I don't know if Denise, were you guessing that it's Bo as in the dog Bo? Reading Rainbow. That's right. And so let's just come to the overhead cam so that you can actually see the picture, and I will hold it up to you. So this is Bo, who will be joining our furry family. And she does have massive ears, so I'm not just being mean, but she has the most beautiful, very big ears, and she has a long snout, so that's why she looks a little bit kangaroo-like at the moment. But I'm sure I'll be drawing her more, and it's a really, really good job that I'm not in charge of the illustrations for the book, because there will be doggy illustrations in the book. So basically, we are collaborating with Miracle's mission to write a cookbook with them. So of course, like a lot of people have asked us for cookbooks and said like it's a really good idea for us to do, and you know, that type of thing. But I kind of wanted to do it with more of a purpose, and so I've been speaking to Victoria, and we're going to write a cookbook together. So taking your suggestions as to like how you want the cookbook to be. I think we've had some really, really good suggestions already, and incorporating them into our recipe book. So the recipe book will have, of course, lots of vegan recipes from me and also from my students as well, because my students are so talented. But also it will have some stories of the dogs and some illustrations from my very talented friend Bridget, who does the most beautiful line drawings, illustrations, and just like really captures animals, really captures animals very, very well. And Denise, you did guess Reading Rainbow, okay, because I just call her Bo now. So yes, yeah, but actually yes, you're right. So Denise, well done. And Denise says, I love her Tootsie Wootsie. Yes, very cute. Oh, Reading Rainbow is a famous children's program here in the US. Really? What's it about? And who's LeVar But? Okay, I'm gonna have to look this up. Okay, let's get on to making some food today. These have toasted now, and I know that because I can smell them. I can see that the colour has changed, the colour is darkened. That's what we're looking for. So now I can just put them into my pestle and mortar. And you can stop beeping. There we go. So just put them into the pestle and mortar there. Right, there we go. Okay, and now we can just give them a good grind. I must admit that I do have possibly the smallest pestle and mortar in the world. So life would be a bit easier if I had a bigger one. But I keep looking around for, you know, a big stone one, and I can never really make up my mind. So I think I really need to go and look at them rather than ordering one online. Because I think you need to feel how, you know, how heavy it is and that type of thing. So there we go. So this is going to smell absolutely divine at the moment. Really, really good. And I'm going to grind mine as much as I possibly can, just to make it really, really fine. If you guys don't fancy doing that and you're fine with it being a bit bitty, then, you know, you can leave it as it is right now. I'm just going to try and make it as fine as I possibly can. And, you know, if you've got a spice grinder, then you can just whack it in there. And that's much, much easier. Right. There we go. Okay, so now we can just set that to one side, and let's prep our onions next. So the onions need to be sliced rather than finely chopped, and so that's going to give us a bit more kind of texture, a bit more, you know, these like bigger bits in our tagine, and that's what I want. So I'm just going to slice them. Finely slice them. There we go. And that just kind of like makes life a bit easier for us as well, because we don't have to worry about finely chopping anything. There we go. Oh, thank you for the link. I'll have to have a look at that after the show. So the guy LeVar Burton, he looks really familiar. Was he in like other TV programs or something like that? He was very familiar. Oh, Denise said I went to an Asian grocery store to get my pestle and mortar. That's a really good tip, because actually, you know, Asian stores sometimes, like, the equipment that they have is really long lasting, really, you know, hard wearing, and not that expensive. Not that expensive. So just finely slicing those, and then let's get our saucepan back. Put it back on. There we go. Add a little bit of our olive oil. So you guys can, you don't necessarily have to use oil if you don't want to. You can water fry it if you prefer. But I'm going to use some olive oil today because I also want the extra flavour of the olive oil. The olive oil flavour will go really, really well with the other flavours that we have going on in this dish today. So I'll get the oil nice and hot, and then I'll be adding the onions. So just to see, so Khan said I'm using cloves instead of cinnamon. Will that hamper the flavour? Yes, cloves are very, very strong, Khan, so do add just a pinch, really, really just a pinch. And Denise, Eagle Eyes says, I see capers. Yes, yes, absolutely. And the reason why you see capers is because Jeff doesn't like olives. Jeff doesn't like olives, which is fine, which I don't understand myself. But, you know, there you go, there you go. So that's a really, really good sub. For anyone who doesn't like olives or doesn't have olives and happens to have some capers. So we've got some lovely big capers today, and I'm going to be using them because basically, you know, this is going to be our dinner. So I don't want him to have to pick out the black olives, but I would usually use black olives for this if I didn't have that issue. So now just pop our sliced onions into our pan. And no doubt the fire alarm will be going off shortly. So, you know, that's something to look forward to. And Colleen said that Lavar, oh, underneath us, that Lavar was on Star Trek. Was he the guy who was blind? I think he was the guy that was blind, and he had that those kind of glass things, you know, like that visor around his eyes. Yes, I remember him now. Gosh, that's a blast from the past. Okay, so there we go. I'm just mixing my my onions with the oil to make sure that they're fully coated, and then I'm just going to leave them on a medium heat, and they can be doing their thing whilst we get onto the rest of the ingredients. Let me just bring this over. There we go, so you guys can see a bit better. Okay, so oh, Denise says that she doesn't like olives either. Okay, so that's a great substitute for you guys. Really, really great substitute for you guys. And so now onto our garlic cloves. So you want to get your pestle and mortar, if you've used your pestle and mortar, and just take all these bits out, pop them out onto this lovely, beautiful plate that I've got here, because we will be using our pestle and mortar again. So I've got a few little, tiny little garlic cloves here. You know, I said in the ingredients list to use 2, but these are so tiny that I'm going to have to use 4. So we can just roughly chop these and pop them into our pestle and mortar. There we go. Okay, now if we tried to mix this, if we tried to bash it as it is, it would probably slip and slide all over the place. Okay, so the way that we get around that is we're going to add a little bit of salt. There we go. So it doesn't have to necessarily be sea salt, it can be any salt that you like to use. And it just makes it so much easier to mix this. So to bash it and just try and get it into a puree as much as possible. So the other option is that you could use a microplane if you want to, or any type of fine grater. Annie says, I only have 1 aubergine. Can I use a courgette instead to bulk it out? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And in fact, Joss and Justine, I think that you guys are using courgettes today, aren't you? Which is a great sub. I think quite often we can use them interchangeably because their flesh is quite similar in texture. You know, it has the ability to suck up flavours. Okay, there we go. That's pureed it really, really well. Really, really well. So if this dries out, you can just add splashes of water rather than adding any more oil. But we do want our everything in this dish to be really nice and soft. Really nice and soft. So there shouldn't be much bite or anything. Oh, Melanie says don't like capers either. Does that mean that you don't like olives and you don't like capers? So we can't have either. We can't have either for you. But what I would say, Melanie, is let's come back over here and have a chat for a second. What you could, so basically you're looking for something that is salty and will add that element to the dish. So you could use something like sun-dried tomatoes if you like those, but it might be that you don't like a lot of things like around that area. So do let me know and I'll try and think of like a substitution. Colleen says he's very active on social media. When the lockdown happened here, he searched for books in the public domain that he could read live. That's so lovely. That's really, really lovely. It said Neil Gaiman gave him blanket permission to read any of his books. Oh, that's so nice. That's how I love Neil Gaiman. George says, would a garlic press work too? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Either or. I mean, with this recipe, I just use pesca because I'm already using it. So it kind of like makes sense. Justin says, yes, they are using courgettes. And Denise says, I would prefer courgettes to aubergine. It's very sweet that you said it first in the way that we say it, aubergine. But yes, also known as eggplant. Okay, so on to the next part of the recipe. Let's get you guys back to the overhead cam. Okay, so whilst this is cooking, now I'm just going to add a little splash of water so it doesn't burn. There we go. Whilst that is cooking, we can prep our aubergine. So when you're choosing aubergine, try to pick ones where the skin is very taut, because that's going to be nice and fresh. It isn't going to be too old. And a note about aubergines, I have to be completely transparent with you guys today and let you know that my aubergines, they're not organic. I know. I go on about organic veg all the time and eating organic and how good it is for you and blah, 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 and how good it is for the planet. And it is. It really, really is. But organic aubergines are really expensive. Really, really, really expensive. And I really wanted to show this recipe to you guys. But trying to be a bit careful with how much money that I spend on groceries, because I can spend a lot. Because it's like my thing. But you know, I did actually buy an organic aubergine from Ocado a couple of weeks ago, and it cost like £3-4 quid, and it was really small and it was really wrinkly, and it was just yeah. So I'm not going to do that again. So unfortunately, there are going to have to be things that, you know, sometimes like I compromise on. Okay, so we can now prep the aubergine. So if you guys are fortunate enough to be able to get hold of small aubergines, then you just need to cut them in half like this. And it's really nice if you can keep that stalk as well. In the UK, you can often find aubergines like this in Indian food stores or Sri Lankan or Bangladesh food stores for pennies, like really, really cheap, really, really cheap. I couldn't find them, however, so I've got these bigger ones. So now we just need to cut these into chunks. So we'll just cut the top off there. And slice it down the middle there. And then we have this flat. We want it to be flat as much as possible because it's going to be much safer for us, and I'm just going to cut it into chunks that are roughly the same size. It's near enough impossible to get your aubergine cubes to be exactly the same size as each other, so you know, don't sweat it too much. Because, you know, it can be difficult when we're trying to make something that's round into a cube. So we'll just pop those into our bowl whilst we're waiting for our onions. And actually, I think my onions are at a good place where I can add my puree. So you see, you know, that it's brown, they're browned nicely. We've still got a little way to go, but I think now's the time to put my my garlic into there. Melanie says, yes, that's right, Daya. I don't like olives or capers. I am getting better with sun-dried tomatoes, so we'll use them. But don't worry, I don't really like aubergines and courgette. I'm just persevering, hoping that I will come to like them, or to at least be able to use them if they come up cheap. And my daughter likes them, so when she visits, I'll have a different way to serve them to her. Won't be very often though. She lives in Ecuador. Oh, nice. Nice. Yeah, well, I mean, I do think, like, with some ingredients, and in my experience of feeding lots of different people, it can just be down to the way that we have been fed them, really. So if we can find new recipes, then we may find a way of enjoying them. But I would say that with things like olives and capers and sun-dried tomatoes, they're a very, very strong flavour. So it might be that you never really find a way of enjoying those, unless you just dip them in chocolate. Which I have tried. Black garlic in chocolate, which was absolutely lovely. Khan said glad that I mentioned Bangladesh. Of course. I think quite often in the UK, people can go, oh well, it's an Indian food shop. Well, actually, if you talk to the people there, they may not be Indian. So in a place that I used to live in, I had a great Sri Lankan shop just up the road from me, where you would go into the shop and it would just look like any kind of newsagent, like the place where you pick up a packet of cigarettes or cheap bottle of wine or something like that. But then you go through that and there's this massive walk-in fridge with the most amazing selection of what we would call exotic fruits and vegetables. Absolutely stunning. So fresh jackfruit, banana blossom flower, all of these things that we only usually see in tins, and it was all there. Oh my gosh, it was like in Aladdin's cave. I was very, very happy when I found that. It was like Christmas. Okay, so if this does start to burn a little, just add some water. So I've got my garlic puree in there, guys. So we'll just chop our other aubergine. There we go. And we do want to keep the skin on this. If we didn't have the skin, then it would break apart too easily. So the skin does help it to hold its shape. Right. Okay. So, Colleen said, can we use plain kombucha instead of white wine? You are a lady after my own heart. This is my plain, very, very sour kombucha. So I'm going to be using kombucha today. So yes, absolutely you can. Colleen said I'm allergic to eggplant, so I'll be using courgette also. Okay. And Justine says I need a way to use my kombucha. Well, babe, you could just mix it with fruit juice and drink it though as well. Joss said I found that my taste buds changed over time after I went vegan. I used to hate aubergine. Yes, I think that definitely happens when we change our diets in these significant ways. Joss said also try cooking them well to get rid of the slimy texture of aubergine and courgettes. Yes, absolutely. That's a very, very good point. Quite often people don't like aubergine because it hasn't been cooked properly. Same with mushrooms as well. Mushrooms, they can be slimy if you have liquid in with them when they're frying, and you don't properly cook them. And same with aubergine. When it's chewy, I hated it when it was chewy and rubbery, really disgusting. So we're going to make sure that we cook this out properly. Okay, so let me just see. Okay, right, no more questions for me. So we can get on to the next part of the recipe. Okay, so we have our aubergine or eggplant cut up and ready to go in. Okay, so now we can add the aubergine. Lots of aubergine here today. The aubergine were quite big, but that's not a bad thing at all. Okay, and so now we can add the spices. So here we've got our toasted and ground cumin and coriander. I'm just going to add my kombucha now, or wine, because I just don't want this to start burning the bottom of the pan. And that's going to give me just a bit more time while I put in our other spices, because we're going to put a few more spices in here. So we have some cinnamon. Oh, so around half a teaspoon of cinnamon. There we go, and that will give it a nice warmth as well. We've got some turmeric here, so around quarter of a teaspoon of ground turmeric. But you know, with these spices, I think you can play around a bit with them. And a pinch of saffron. And this is an optional thing, really, because, you know, I know saffron can be very expensive. So just, you know, if you happen to have it, then use it. Don't go and buy it, especially. Just a pinch of saffron. There we go. Oh, and by the way, anyone who's in the UK, Hodmedod's is now selling UK grown saffron, which is amazing. Really, really amazing. And then we have our 2 cups of water, which is around 500 millilitres. And a little bit of stock, so around 1 teaspoon of stock powder. And so you guys can add some salt as well if you want to. But you'll remember that I added salt to my garlic when I was pounding the garlic. So I'm not going to add any salt to mine at the moment. I'm going to wait for this to cook out, and then I'm going to taste it and see how it is. So at the moment, you will have quite a lot of water in there, but it will go and it will thicken as well. So it will thicken into a nice sauce. I'm just giving this a good mix because, you know, we've put our spices in there and our stock powder. I just want to make sure that it's mixed in with the water and the kombucha or the wine, whichever you're using. Absolutely fine to use either. And it just gives a bit of depth of flavour using those ingredients. So I'm just going to pop the temperature up slightly. And then we can sort out our lemons. So we've got our preserved lemons here. So I don't know if you guys have used these before. I absolutely love them. At a push, you know, if you really can't find them, then you could use something like lemon zest. Oh, Doug said it's my big anniversary on the 20th of July, 24 years. So next year I should host a big party for 25 years. Yes, that would be lovely. That would be lovely. Oh, and we've got another, so Colleen says her big anniversary is May the 1st. There we go. Okay, so with our preserved lemons, we are going to take the centre out. So you'll see, you know, they've got the these bits in. We want to take those out. We definitely want to take the seeds out. So basically we just want to be left with the skin. And this will give it a truly Middle Eastern flavour. And preserved lemons, because they're preserved, they actually last a long time. So, you know, even if like you go and buy a jar especially for this recipe, well, you can just store them in the fridge and they won't go off quickly at all. So I'm basically using the same technique that I would if I was doing this with tomatoes. So quartering them, then putting them on their back, and then sliding the knife. There we go. You can also preserve your own lemons as well. And I think that is definitely something that I will do one day because I haven't been able to find organic preserved lemons. So it would be interesting to do it myself. So now I'm just going to finely chop them. And you do have to be a bit careful with these because they can be a bit slippy. There we go, but we'll just slice them one way. them. And then chop them the other way. Oh, I'm just making sure that you guys can see what I'm doing. So as you can probably see, this is speeding along, speeding along. We just want to make sure that it's all mixed in well so that the aubergine can soak up all of that lovely, very, very flavoursome sauce. And sorry guys, I'm not able to read your questions at the moment because I'm really, really mindful of the fact that I've got a very sharp knife next to my fingers. And I was thinking about multitasking and reading your questions at the same time as chopping, and then I thought that it's probably not a good idea. So I didn't do it. So you'll have to bear with me. There we go. So with our capers, and also with your olives as well, if you're going to use olives, we can decide whether to keep them in bigger chunks or to cut them so that they're smaller. So it really depends on, you know, how, first of all, how big your capers are, because sometimes capers can be tiny. They can be really, really tiny. These ones are fairly big, so I think that I'll probably just roughly chop our capers as well before popping those in. But you don't have to, you can just pop them in whole. And, you know, with your, if you're going to use black olives, then you can just halve them and pop them in like that if you want to. So the difference really would be, you know, whilst you were eating it, do you get like a big, massive like pop of, you know, saltiness every now and again? Or do you get kind of like little bits of saltiness that are throughout the dish? Okay, so now we can pop all of that into our pan. There we go. Give that a good mix. There we go. This is going really, really well. Really quickly, I mean, by that. So just grab our capers. So this is around 2 tablespoons of capers. And things like capers are great for adding a brininess, but also a saltiness, because quite often with veggie, vegan dishes, they can be more on the sweet side, because, you know, vegetables have a natural sweetness to them. We kind of forget that sometimes. But if you give up refined sugar, then you definitely notice that difference. There we go. Right, so that is all of the ingredients in the pan. So now we just need to let this bubble away. Make sure that our aubergine is fully cooked. Really, really fully cooked. So when you get to the point where you think that it is cooked, so probably take around like 20 minutes to half an hour, find the biggest chunk of aubergine that you can find and put a fork in it. Okay, so that will be a better way to tell. So we just want to make sure that this is really, really soft. All of the veggies are soft and unctuous. And there we go. So let me just see if we've got any more questions. So Christine says, I dislike aubergines, and guess what ends up on the pub menus? Yes, that is very, very true. Quite often it is things like aubergine and mushroom as well. You know, a lot of people say to me that they don't like mushroom, and that tends to be, you know, one of the things that people always use for veggie dishes at these like non-vegan places. And Christine also says, sometimes it feels as if it's the only thing they can think of. Yeah, it is. It really, really is. Really is. You know, in some places as well, you know, I remember going to a pub in Sussex with Jeff, and they had some vegan things on the menu, which was amazing to see because, you know, it was a real like stereotypical English country pub, which tend to be very, very non-vegan. Like they will even have things like fox heads on the wall and deer heads and stuff like that. Yeah, so they can be very, very non-vegan, but they had some vegan things on the menu, which was great, which was really, really good. But the thing that I ordered, I couldn't eat it. I don't even remember what it was now, but it was so sweet. They had literally just put sugar in it, that I couldn't eat it. And there's another place near here that is also, you know, really, really nice country pub, and I had a Thai curry from them, which was better, but I could also taste that they'd put sugar in it. And that's one of the big differences that I see with professional chefs making vegan food who aren't vegan, who probably aren't that healthy either, and the way that they cook food, the way that they come up with recipes, it's not to my taste at all. And that's one of the great things about being able to teach the Pro Chef course, is that we can introduce like more vegans who are, you know, maybe healthy vegans, or, you know, vegans who have had a vegan diet for a long time, so their taste buds, their palates have developed, and, you know, they can produce vegan food, I think, better than a non-vegan can. I mean, there was one place in London, and this was a vegetarian place too, The Gate, and I ordered a salad, and it had so much oil and salt on it, and there is no way that that salad was made by somebody who actually eats salad. And I had to send it back, and I hate sending things back. Because, you know, it's so British, isn't it? I hate causing fuss. Yeah, I know. But yeah, in that instance, I did have to send it back. So George said, so lemon zest and lemon juice would be a good substitute for preserved lemon. What else could be substituted? So with preserved lemon, at a push, I would say use lemon zest and lemon juice. But because it's preserved, it's got that kind of vinegariness. So maybe add like a little bit of vinegar too, because just lemon juice and lemon zest may not cut it. But yeah, it has this kind of, because it's been preserved in a kind of briny, vinegary solution. Then you need that as well. Justine says, I'll celebrate with you all tomorrow with Ferrero Rocher muffins. That's a very good idea. That's a very, very good idea. Okay, so this is going very, very quickly. It can take up to about half an hour because we do want to allow it to have some time. And I know that I have lectured you guys on that time and time before. So we're not going to rush this at all because, as I said, if we rush it, then we may end up with rubbery aubergines. Nobody wants a rubbery aubergine. So we do need to allow this some time to bubble. For those of you guys who are using courgette, it may not need as much time because courgette can cook quicker than aubergine. And also, courgette doesn't have, how can I say it? If courgette isn't fully soft, I still think, to my mind, that it's still nice to eat, it's still pleasant to eat. Whereas with aubergine, we don't have that. We want to go away from the rubbery aubergine. But, I was making something with courgette the other day, because courgettes are in season in the UK at the moment, so lots of them about. And I purposefully didn't cook the courgette as much as I normally would. So there was a little bit of bite to them, and actually it was very, very nice, really, really nice. And also, of course, that means that we're keeping more nutrition in the food as well. George says, thank you. A little apple cider vinegar would be perfect. Yes, I think that's a really, really good addition. Preserved lemons are hard to find here. Yeah, they really, really can be. They really can be. I mean, that's the thing, with a dish like this, I think when I first originally was making it, I was making it for a Middle Eastern family. So, you do have to stick to those authentic ingredients as much as possible. But of course, there are times when we just can't get hold of them. So, but I'll let you know, actually, once I get started with my preserved lemons, I'll let you know how I'm getting along with them. Because really, that should be like a fairly easy thing to do. You know, apart from the fact that you've got to wait a while for them to actually get preserved. Okay, so let's bring you guys to the overhead cam so that you can see how this is looking now. So getting nice and saucy, thickening well, which is great, which is exactly what we want. But we still got, you know, a lot of body to this because we've got our chunky aubergines and we've got our onion slices, which I think give a really lovely texture to this. Really lovely texture, and it smells wonderful. It smells really, really, really good. Yeah. Oh, and Denise says it's impossible there too. Okay, okay. So yeah, I mean in the UK, it's a lot easier to get preserved lemons now. A lot of supermarkets are selling more Middle Eastern ingredients. In London, we also have the most amazing Middle Eastern food stores as well. So places like Green Valley. There is also a place in Kentish Town, if anyone's from the London area. But of course, you know, in other parts of the world, not able to get these things so much. But yeah, hopefully those substitutions will help. Okay, guys, so we're just going to leave this to bubble, just to simmer and do its thing, and not rush it. But let's go back. Oh, Elaine, you are late. You are late, but don't worry, you can watch this on catch up. You can watch this on catch up. So let's just go back to our original picture and show you guys how this will turn out. So that is what we're looking for in the end. You can see in this picture, you know, I was able to source these small aubergines, which are really, really lovely. They look pretty as well. I think that this dish looks so much prettier when you have these small aubergines rather than the big ones, but unfortunately, you know, I was only able to get the big ones today. But definitely, you know, if you're maybe making food for a dinner party, particularly a buffet style, you know, dinner party where you've got all, you know, big plates loaded up with food in the middle, in the center, and people pass it around, then this would look absolutely beautiful, really, really beautiful. And it kind of takes us away from this, you know, like some vegan food can just, like this, that's in the pan here, it can just look a bit like nondescript. You know, like your eyes are looking at it, but there isn't many like beautiful shapes that you can pick out. So that's like kind of one of the challenges that we do, and quite often, you know, especially when people talk about like celebratory meals and Christmas meals, a lot of these magazines, they come to me and they're like, we want something that's a centerpiece, something that's going to look good on the table. You know, quite often they're looking for something like that. But I think with this dish, if you can source these lovely little mini aubergines, then it would make a really, really beautiful centerpiece. It would be very, very pretty in a kind of buffet dinner style. Yeah, that would look really, really beautiful. Okay, guys, so now we're going to leave it there for today. So anybody who's cooking along at home, just keep it bubbling. Keep it bubbling. Check those aubergines to see how done they are. We want them properly cooked. So don't rush it. Just let it do its thing. And then serve it alongside some basmati rice. It definitely needs something like, you know, a rice or some other grain. Maybe, you know, quinoa or millet or buckwheat, anything like that. But it's going to have sauce, so, you know, you need something to suck up that sauce. And Annie said, could you actually make this tagine in the oven? I think maybe you could. Yeah. I think that you could. I think that would be a really nice option. I think you probably you know how you actually have the tagine where you have the lid on top. You know, so you would need something on top so that you're keeping all that moisture in, because you don't want it to dry out too much. You definitely don't want the aubergine to dry out too much. And Khan said, my one's just hit the stove. How is everyone getting along? That would be good to know, actually. So do let me know. Elaine, thank you for that little picture. Okay, so let me know if you've got any more questions. And if not, we'll wrap it up. Oh, excuse me, guys. Very thirsty today for some reason. And my voice is going. So that's going to make this afternoon's videos more interesting. Right, I hope that you guys are getting along okay. Okay, so I think that you're all good to go. You're all good to go. Brilliant. So if you have been cooking along, then please do share pictures of what you've been making in the community hub. As always, it's really, really lovely to see them. And thank you to Katie for yesterday's show. Wasn't it brilliant? Really, really good. And I loved as well that you guys were interjecting with adding, you know, ideas of what you would add to your dish as well. That's always really, really nice. Really, really good information, because you know, it's not just like you guys learning from me, but it's you guys learning from each other as well, which is absolutely fantastic. So I will see you here again tomorrow, of course, for Ferrero Rocher muffins, for celebratory Ferrero Rocher muffins, for Justine's birthday and for Doug's big anniversary as well. So thank you for joining me today, and I'll see you tomorrow. And of course, as always, have a lovely day.